So your point too, I wanted to highlight the irony of the fact that he's getting some government paid, government managed healthcare
Yeah.
as he and his administration is trying to take that benefit from, I believe is now 22 million people.
All right. Welcome to another episode of The Brown Perspective. This is RO, and I'm here with Eduardo. ¿Cómo estamos?
What's happening? How's everybody feeling today?
I'm good, man. I'm
Are
good.
you, are you healthy?
Better than Trump.
That's right. We're sending our thoughts and prayers to our commander in chief this weekend as he is dealing with the COVID-19 virus. And I think also from the debate, he mocked Joe Biden for wearing big face mask and talking about all this. And obviously, a couple of days later, he confirms that he's comes down with the COVID-19. And I guess part of the sadness of the episode this week is that, the fact that people think that maybe it's a hoax, a way to try to
Hmm.
distract and get the narrative away from his performance at the debate, from what he said, and kind of get attention away from those controversial things that happened, and also get him some sympathy points for now being infected with COVID-19.
Yeah, that means that somebody in his team would have had to make the calculation that it's going to be advantageous for him to do this. And it's hard to say if it's going to help him or not, because as you said, he was mocking Biden for wearing a face mask. He has downplayed it ever since the beginning. And by the way, now we know today should show the entire nation why it is that Trump always downplays the COVID, because the minute that he got it, he was flown to the hospital. He was given treatment. He has how many doctors came out today to give his an update on his status? It was about 10 doctors
Yeah, that's what it
and
appeared like.
specialists in different fields, in cardiology, in what was the other one? They had an army doctor, a pulmonary specialist. They had a specialist for just about every single possible field. And think about how expensive these guys are. And so of course he didn't care about COVID, because the minute he got sick, he was gonna get the best possible care available that this country has to offer.
Hmm.
And yeah, he could have been infected with this during the debate. And then going back to whether or not it's a hoax, at first I thought, okay, we know that Trump is a compulsive liar. So wouldn't be surprised. It would take a lot of planning to pull that off, to be honest. And then you
Hmm.
would also have to have made the calculation that it was going to be to his advantage. But once people around him started coming out positive as well, that's when it started to feel like, nah, there's just, even if I had my doubts that maybe, okay, 5% chance that this is intentional and he's lying. I think once people started around him started coming testing positive, I think it decreased that to a very small percentage for me. So I don't think that this is him trying to get sympathy points and try to use it as an excuse to deflect from the debate. Because if we go back to the debate, to whether or not the debate helped him or not, I don't think it hurt him. I don't really think you had a clear winner from that debate.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like the debate was something that was going to significantly affect his numbers with the voters. Even the statement to the Proud Boys, as you mentioned, there have been previous times when he had the chance to disavow and to criticize nationalists, white supremacists, and hate groups, but he hadn't. So I don't even know if that was going to hurt him.
Yeah, you may be right, and it'll be interesting. I mean, I think yesterday everybody, when he was boarding the air helicopter to go to Walter Reed, I think everybody was looking to try to see the image. Was he going to be walking? Was he going to be carried out on a stretcher? And obviously, we know that. I mean, the symbolism of the presidency and those images would have spoken volumes to to the world. And I think the fact that obviously he was able to walk out on his own power, look relatively fine. Um, but it will be interesting to see what kind of, and I think that the fact that he went to the hospital, I think shows that okay, they just want to be make sure that he has the care that he needs. Because I imagine that he probably got a fairly a good amount of care at the White House, because I'm sure they have a mini hospital in there just in case something happens to him or anybody else in the White House. So the fact that they felt compelled to take him to Walter Reed probably is they wanted to be close to the resources, and in case that they needed to give him oxygen or other
Mhm.
things. But all that to say, that will be interesting to see a how his condition evolves, if he's going to have to go to a critical care unit like the prime minister in England did,
Mhm.
or if he's just going to be fine, and then we'll see how he bounces back from the COVID-19, right? Is he going to say, oh, you know what, like this is serious and people need to be careful, or is he just going to be like, see, I told you, this is just no more than a flu, and I'm already ready to for to run the election and to win 4 more years. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of approach he takes after this whole um, COVID-19 um, compadecencia finishes.
It's going to be difficult for him to pull that off because uh, already today there's reports that he's been getting cocktails, experimental drugs, immune boosters, and I don't know what else he's been given. And then he has 10 medical specialists outside speaking about his condition. I don't know if he
Yeah.
can come out and say that, see, I turned out fine, so this isn't a big deal. Everyone's going to say, well, yeah, you turned out fine because look, you had 24/7 care, and everyone was on top of it, making sure that you were getting oxygen if you needed it, that you were getting adequate care. So I don't know if he can pull that off as easily as maybe others might think. The other thing that I wanted to say regarding the whole last 48 hours and how this has been handled, it's actually uncharacteristic of Trump to have just come out on Twitter and admit that he's positive. So this is actually is more towards your statement earlier that this could be a hoax. Even though I don't believe it, this is what people that believe that he's faking it will point to, which is normally the way that Trump works is he doesn't like to admit that he's wrong. And so with the COVID, you would have seen either him denying it or him trying to hold off as much as possible not to release this information. Maybe even pretend like he got the flu, right, for a few days. Oh, I have a fever. I'm tired, but I got the flu. It's not COVID. And then tweeting about it, making sure that he tells that to everyone. And then eventually, maybe if it starts getting worse, then admitting that he did test positive. So that's one possibility. That's usually how Trump would act if somebody, if they would have let him. What also could have happened was they are giving him tests routinely. I don't know if they test him every single day or every few days, but whoever tested him, I think as soon as they found out that he was positive, they went to him and they probably sat him down. They probably tied him to a chair. They probably gagged him too. And they told him, look, man, if you don't come out clean with this right now, you're going to lose this election. Because if you start lying to the people, and if you have to then admit a few days later that you're lying to them, then that's going to be a lot worse. Just tell them the truth right now. And then, once he nodded that he understood what they were telling him, then they probably ungagged him and untied him and let him tweet. I mean, they probably monitored him when he was tweeting to make sure that he didn't like try to lie. So that could have happened, but it is uncharacteristic of him. He would have lied. He would have tried to pretend like he didn't have it.
Yeah. And I guess to your point too, I wanted to highlight the irony of the fact that he's getting some government paid, government managed healthcare
Yeah.
as he and his administration is trying to take that benefit from, I believe it's now 22 million people, and obviously everybody else who's impacted who doesn't have healthcare coverage now. So
Oh yeah, yeah. And this is people are not going to understand. I don't know if this is going to help or not. But these rich politicians, they don't mind socialized healthcare when it comes to them. They just don't want it for the rest of the country. And
mhm.
think about how expensive each of those specialists is. When you go to the doctor and you have to see a specialist, I think about how expensive that is. And how much time do you actually get to talk to this specialist? 15 minutes, 30 minutes maybe? And if you're lucky, you get a few sessions where you spend more than 30 minutes per session with a specialist. And this guy has 10 of them that are going to be around the clock watching him for the next 7 days or however long. Think how expensive that is. The access that he has, it should be appalling to people. The discrepancy between the type of care that the average citizen gets versus the type of care that he's getting. Yet these are the politicians, as you said, that are trying to take it away from everyone else.
Yeah.
Pendejo. This is a pendejo. That's the right word for Trump. Oh, right. The other thing that I was going to say, at this point, does it not concern you that there's still voters out there that are undecided? Like,
Yes, very much
if
so.
you're undecided at this stage of the game, that this late into the election process, and you don't know who you're going to vote for, then well, what the hell are you waiting for? Is there a piece of information that has not been presented to you that you're waiting on? Like, what is it? Somebody that's been living under a rock, someone that has been playing video games for the last 10 years, that it has completely been detached from the world and undecided, and then in the next week or two they're going to find out about these two candidates for the first time. It can't possibly be that, right? I mean, it's people that know, they have some idea of who Trump is and who Biden is. Like, I don't even care. I'm not even saying that they should vote for one of them. I'm saying that you're still undecided, that you haven't even decided that you're not going to vote for either of them. If somebody said, yeah, I'm not going to vote for either of them, then you've made a decision. You're not undecided. But if you're undecided as to whether you're going to go for Trump or Biden, then I don't know what. I don't know. It's scary that the rest of the nation is counting on these people to make the right decision.
Yeah, and to their defense, I know that there was a, they were doing some study groups, no, what they call them, focus groups during the debate, and I saw a little bit of a video on one, and I guess people were just saying that they wanted to hear more from the candidates about their policies and that they were hoping to get more information before making their minds. But to your point, I think there's not much that they can learn at this point that in my mind can change how they're going to vote in November.
Maybe I'm being too harsh on them. Maybe they're just the procrastinators of politics. So the same way that college kids procrastinate and wait until the last minute to turn in an assignment, maybe these guys, maybe they just procrastinate in politics. Maybe that's what it is. There's just
Yeah.
something about them that it renders them incapable of making a decision until the last minute, and so they stay undecided until the very end. I mean, at least that would be an explanation as to what it is that's making them be undecided. Because at this point, there's nothing that these candidates are going to say that is new. There's nothing that has not already been said in the last months that you cannot get by looking at the platform of the Republicans and the Democrats. So unfortunately, the rest of the nation has to rely on these people that make a decision based on I don't know exactly what personality. They're going to vote for Biden because Trump was acting like a child. I seriously doubt it. So one of the other factors, and by the way, I know I call Trump a pendejo. I think a lot of Trump voters are fed up with politics as usual from the Republicans and the Democrats. They hate these guys so much that they just want to vote for Trump to give the middle finger to the rest of them. Even if giving the middle finger to Trump and to Biden and to the other Republicans is also hurting themselves. It's just we've gotten to that point where American politics that's just the reality of where the politicians have led the electorate and essentially to make those type of decisions.
Yeah, which is sad because those decisions matter and they have repercussions on all of us. But yeah, maybe it's a wake up call for both parties. But I don't know. I guess we'll have to see how that shakes out.
The other thing regarding Trump is that either he comes out of this completely unscathed, that it didn't develop into anything more than a low grade fever, or it gets really bad.
Hmm.
I don't see it being like an in between for him. You're the expert on this because you went through this already. So he's only into the first 72 hours at most. If 'cause they don't want to see, that's the other part. They don't want to say when the last time it is that he was tested. So it's hard for us to know, to get a clear picture of how long he's had it. So let's just say 72 hours. That's the way that this virus runs its course. That doesn't put you out of the woods yet, right? The doctor today said that day 7 through 10 are the most critical ones. So he
That's
has a
right.
long way to go.
Yeah, I think that he does. And, when I consulted my 10 doctors when I got sick, they told me that I will be okay. No, so yeah, so I think it takes a while for your body to just kind of, and I think it was, and I wish I would have kind of kept the timeline better. But yeah, there was a time where there was a particular day, probably 72 to 75, uh, 80 hours after, where you just felt like, oh yeah, this is not good. Like where I felt like I need to take the day off and just
Mm-hmm.
sleep and recover. So the body aches, the headache, that those symptoms. Um, so yeah, and I think to this day I still feel that my lungs. I feel like I have a lot of phlegm that I still
Mm-hmm.
have to let go every once in a while. So I know that there's some things that I'm still dealing with because of what I had with COVID-19. But yeah, and it's crazy because that was the other part, that the internet went crazy yesterday with all the memes
Mm-hmm.
of Trump, and then one piece was the coffin dancers, people, and which is also kind of the sad because as much as I don't like Trump, I don't want, I don't wish him ill, and that is just kind of, it sucks that people felt like, oh, making fun of him, like he is, yeah, and this video is pretty amazing.
This
And they did a remix with Trump when he, as he makes statements, and then these guys come in. So yeah, so this is, I guess, is a tradition somewhere in Africa, where they do the dancing. And obviously we know that we're close to the elections when you see proposition advertisements on YouTube here in California.
Oh yeah, all the propositions. Let's watch
Is
this.
there a way we can do something like that? Injection inside or almost a cleaning?
No, it's not this one. If
I've
you,
seen this before though. Yeah. Look, if you're going to put out messages about Trump, and at least try to be a little more original with your insults, because that's just low hanging fruit at this point. To wish ill on him. Come on, get more
Mhm.
creative with your attacks on Trump. That's so easy, and it's messed up. He's a horrible person, but he's better off staying alive, and maybe they throw him in jail if they find that he's been doing fraud for tax fraud, or if he was doing any other illegal things, or maybe
Yeah,
just to see him lose the election.
yeah, and I think it also just kind of gets to like, well, if you're wishing that ill on him and his supporters, that's no wonder that they, you can also see how that same sentiment is what they're using, and how they have rationalized wishing you and your, immigrants and others ill too. So I guess it's that type of negative energy and emotion that is not helpful.
Exactly. And yeah, and one last thing regarding the at least his current medical condition is that, knowing Trump, he also would want to be in front of the cameras, speaking directly to people, saying, "Look, I'm fine." But again, they're not letting him. They're preventing him from doing that because even if he's showing signs of fatigue and maybe shortness of breath and a fever, he probably would still want to get in front of the camera. So they're keeping him from doing that, which means that he's still it's still a serious condition right now, a serious situation.
Yeah, and it looks like he was active on Twitter this morning. Just thanking the doctors over at Walter Reed, and I guess wanting to get more stimulus. And so our great U.S. wants and needs stimulus. Work together and get it done. Thank you. I guess talking about the Senate and the stimulus package that is still being debated out there. So
yeah, well, we'll keep an eye on this one. We'll see next time when we do our recording. We'll see where he is. Any other thoughts on this?
No, I think that the other piece will be, the fact that COVID could potentially slow down has slowed down the hearings or the congressional work, the Senate work on the nomination of the next Supreme Court justice. So we'll see. Maybe, as much as they want to get this done as quickly as possible, maybe COVID has other plans.
I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that off or that's going to happen because the Republicans this morning are still signaling that they're going to push this through. Yeah, let's keep an eye on that.
All right.
Bueno, pues make sure to subscribe. Follow us at The Brown Perspective on YouTube. Hit that like button also. It helps our videos show up when people search for content. We also have a Twitter page and an Instagram page. You can find us at the Brown Perspective, Brown Perspective TV. Nos vemos.
Ciao.